What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Universal Mastery. Welcome back to my public YouTube channel. Glad to have you here. So what exactly am I going to be speaking about in this very unique video today? I'm going to be speaking about artificial intelligence and exactly what it means as it's starting to come more so into our mass collective. What does it mean that artificial intelligence is starting to show up in everyday life? What is this actually a deeper symbol of? What does this actually represent? This is coming from the lens of a professional occultist and also someone who's very studied in the field of just the body, the emotions, the nervous system, and things of that nature. So if this is something that grabs your attention and you want to know a little bit more about what's actually happening in the mass collective today, this is definitely a video that I would recommend staying tuned for, so you have one thing to do, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, let me first start with introducing myself just in case you don't know who I am, if you're new to my channel. My name is Jeremiah Schwartz. I'm a professional occultist. I'm fully initiated in the entirety of the Kabbalistic tree. I'm studied when it comes to the 22 major arcana of the tarot deck. I'm studied when it comes to planetary energies in association with astrology. And I'm also studied when it comes to the nervous system and trauma. I'm well aware of how important this side of things are. Okay? So with that, we're going into our subject. So artificial intelligence. What does it actually mean that artificial intelligence is starting to come to the forefront? What is this a symbol of, or what does this represent? When it comes to occult principles, there's always going to be a principle that stands the test of time. And this is the principle of as within, as without, which means what is happening internally is also manifesting externally, and vice versa. What is happening externally is also something that is taking place internally to some extent. The reason why this principle stands the test of time is because this is representing all of us and everything in general being connected by the same source, being connected by an infinite intelligence that a lot of people refer to as God. I like to call it the source. Some people say it's the universe, you name it. There's a million names you can give this. But if we're all truly connected, then we're all reflecting each other. And the things that we come into contact with most immediately, like your immediate physical environments, the environments you find yourself in most often on a daily basis, these are going to be heightened aspects of your own unconscious mind. So these are going to be heightened aspects of you. So if you find yourself going to McDonald's every single day, and this is something that you just are in a routine with because you go to work and it's on the way and that's how you get your food, then whatever the energetic symbolism is that is behind McDonald's is something that you are very strongly emanating and resonating with. That's why you're at McDonald's every single day. This is just giving you a hypothetical example. We could apply this to many other areas of life. So with that being said, what does the unfoldment of artificial intelligence represent with our inner beings? What does it represent with our consciousness as the human species? What does it represent with our connection to our nervous systems, the connection to our bodies and our emotions? So some of you may have heard me speak on this before, but this is what's going on. We all have trauma. We have all been through trauma. Most of our most significant trauma happens in the early developmental stages. So typically this is anywhere from the age of 1 to 10. Most of the significant, serious trauma that really sticks inside of our bodies is usually from the age of 1 to 3, or even before we're born, okay, in the mother's womb. And the reason why that can be so severe is because we're so young, we just don't have the right capacity and for sure the right education and know how to process those really intense traumas. But once again, trauma is trauma. All of us have it. We repress it in our nervous system. We repress it in our body because we don't have the right education to know how to process it, and we don't have the right practices in place to expand our capacity to even be able to process it through feeling. So because of this trauma, we have to create an external identity, or we have to create a separate persona in order to survive the energy from the trauma, which is a negative emotion. So the trauma itself creates a sensation in our body. From that uncomfortable sensation, it generates an emotion. The emotion is usually fear, anger, sadness, and a whole host of other types of emotions. But we don't know how to process it at the time, or we can't process it, so we store it in our nervous system. To survive this emotion, we have to create this separate identity, or this separate way of being, this separate way of behaving that is out of alignment of our true self. So to make this more practical, it's like, let's say you grow up in a very toxic family household where your mom is all over the place, your dad is very abusive, and you're the child, you're their child, and you feel like you have to be the person that keeps everything in balance. So if you're not there keeping everyone in balance, then the house is going to go to shit. Your dad's going to start abusing your mom. It's going to hurt you. So you take on this role of being the balancer within the household. You're doing this because you're trying to prevent yourself from being further traumatized. But by maintaining the balance in the household, you have to actually shift your behaviors and shift your identity to please your parents, to please your father so that he doesn't abuse your mother, or to please your mother so that she doesn't trigger your father. So you're the child who is supposed to be nurtured by your parents, nurtured by the mom, protected by the dad, but you came into a family dynamic where it's extremely toxic and abusive, and you don't get that protection and you don't get that nurturing. Rather, you're the one that feels like you have to carry the family on your shoulders at all times, because if you don't, they're going to hurt each other, and then that ultimately is going to hurt you. So the separation in this example is you having to become something outside of your true self, outside of your true nature, just so that your parents can coexist more harmoniously together. Just so that your dad doesn't abuse your mother, or just so that your mother doesn't say something to your father that will trigger him to behave in a certain way. This is just a little bit of an example of how people can create this separation. There are many other types of examples that exist, but this is a pretty common one that a lot of people experience. So with that being said, this separation, the reason why I brought all this up is because, yes, this does absolutely directly connect back into artificial intelligence. And here's why. So through that principle, as within, as without, artificial intelligence is really becoming big in our modern times, in our mass collective. We look at the word artificial, and then we have it combined with intelligence. So artificial is not real. It's not necessarily organic. It's inorganic. And then intelligence. So we have inorganic intelligence, which means it's lacking a deeper, holistic connection to nature. Doesn't mean it doesn't have its place, doesn't have its role. It's just lacking a deeper connection to nature. Whereas us as organic humans, we have a very visceral, intimate connection with nature. We are actually not even separate from nature. We are nature. But artificial intelligence is lacking that deeper connection. So with that being said, because this is something that is now manifesting mass collectively, that must mean this became a manifestation from something that was happening first internally to the masses. So based on this separation that I was just talking about from past trauma, how we have to separate from our true self in order to cope or in order to survive through very stressful and scary situations, that is the beginning of our internal being where we are separating from our true self and entering into an artificial intelligence or entering into an artificial awareness in order to please others around us or in order to fit into their mold so that we can feel safe within ourself because we don't have that natural safety from the dangerous environment or the toxic environment. So the fact that artificial intelligence is manifest is showing that we've, as a mass collective, reached a stage of significant internal separation to the point where that internal separation that most of us have been through in our lifetimes has now physically manifest. And it's literally physically showing up as artificial intelligence. This is one of the deeper principles and deeper perspectives on literally what artificial intelligence is. This is why there's a lot of people that get a really weird feeling when they think of a future that is with a lot of artificial intelligence. When you ask someone that question, like, how do you feel about artificial intelligence coming into the mass collective? The truth is, most people get a feeling that is very uncomfortable. A feeling that says, oh, I don't really know about this. Like, I don't like the feeling. But even though that feeling is there, this feeling exists probably for most people. There's a mental way of looking at it, which most often overrides that feeling that we have. And it says, yeah, but it's good for the future. Or this could be something that's helpful for all of us. Or, you know, this is going to be healthy. You know, it's going to help us do things that we previously couldn't do before. It's going to be progressive. So remember what I'm saying here. When we hear the word artificial intelligence and we talk about it coming into the mass collective, most of us really do have a feeling that says this is not something good for us, or this doesn't feel right. This feels a little bit off or scary even. Whereas the mind can oftentimes jump to, well, this could be something really good, or there's a lot of potential here. This is progressive. This is how we expand as a society. And I'm not saying that artificial intelligence is bad by any means. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to make you think it's wrong or it's evil or it's bad. I'm just explaining most of our nature and how we have these natural feelings when we talk about these subjects. And the reason why most of us have this feeling of fear or just uneasiness around artificial intelligence is because we actually can, from a subconscious, unconscious space, realize that artificial intelligence is a direct manifestation of our separation between our true self. That's why we're the ones creating artificial intelligence. There's not another being or species that's creating it. It's our species. It's the human race, which is for sure not void of trauma. We have all been through trauma, and most of us, as we've created this separation in our identities and become our artificial intelligence, most of us have not reintegrated and came back into the true self. And because of that, we are literally now manifesting actual artificial intelligence into our mass collective. And with that being said, this is literally the deeper realization as to what artificial intelligence actually is a manifestation of and what it actually is rooted in, which so many people don't know. People think we're just this advanced species and we're starting to unlock things that we never did before, and we're tapping into technology that's super advanced, and these things are absolutely true. I agree with all of this, but it's always rooted in something much deeper than that. and it's going to be definitely rooted in something that has to do with the emotional body. And if we're talking about the emotional body, we have to look back to past trauma that we went through, because that's where we store these emotions, these negative emotions. And that's also where we create the false identity within the self. So that's literally what artificial intelligence represents. It is the artificial version of ourself that we are now physically manifesting as a mass collective. So is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? The answer to that question is it's neither. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It just is what it is. And ultimately, as I say over and over again, everything happens for a reason. Now, with the external manifestation of artificial intelligence from the positive lens, this is giving us as a species an opportunity to see something externalized from us as if it is completely separate from us, and we can look at attributes of this artificial intelligence and actually self-reflect and say, where am I doing this inside of myself? Where inside of my being am I being a little bit robotic? Am I being a little bit overly intelligent rather than emotionally feeling? Where in myself am I calculating too much or logistically adding the data together where I could be feeling and listening to that higher intelligence within my body that guides me through intuition? So this is the positive lens of how we can use artificial intelligence. When things are externally manifest, we can start working with it internally a lot easierly. This is it's like, it's like you're studying the medical field and you're learning about all the different organs in the body. It's like it's way easier to understand your own organ system when you have a mannequin that has a bunch of organs on its body and you can point at all the organs as you're teaching it or as you're learning about it. So it's a lot easier to learn that way about yourself in that type of situation. And the same thing happens with consciousness when we externalize some of our repressed negative emotions through avenues like artificial intelligence. And this happens in many other areas of life as well, but definitely through artificial intelligence. And that allows us to look at what we manifested and then do more reflection and say, wait a minute, what does this say about me? Or what does this resonate with in my body? What is this communicating to me on a deeper level? And kind of go into some of those things. So that would be the positive lens of artificial intelligence. The negative lens is that we're manifesting something that is based on the aspect of ourself that is artificial. So there is a lot of potential for us to keep building on this artificial intelligence and, in a way, trust it or put more energy into it than what we actually should be doing. Just like we put so much energy into this part of ourself that is not who we truly are, and we believe it, and we hold on to it, and we create stories around it, and some of us create entire lives around it with families and everything. So if we start doing that with artificial intelligence, there's a lot of potential for destruction. Because remember what I always tell you about trauma and the nature of trauma. When something is created out of a space of a repressed emotion, the thing that was created will always end in the repressed emotion that it was created from. So to make this more simple so that you can understand, if I have a deep repressed fear in my body, in my nervous system, and I have to create this identity to cope from feeling this fear or to survive this fear by not feeling it, and then this identity that I've created now wants to build things and it wants to create more things, then what I'm creating from that identity is going to end back in that same repressed emotion that created the identity in the first place, which was fear. So everything that this part of my ego is starting to create is inherently designed to end in that same fear that it was created from. It goes back to its source. So artificial intelligence absolutely has the same outcome that it could turn into. It 100% has a lot of potential to end in more fear, anger, and sadness, just because of the nature of how it's becoming manifest in the first place, coming from the artificial self. So that would be the negative way to look at that situation. It is what it is. You know, people are going to use it the way that they need to, and people are going to work with it the way that they need to. And at the end of the day, this is what the evolutionary experience is all about. All right? So with that being said, though, now that we have this awareness, we can better understand what's happening in the world around us. We can start realizing that all these things that are showing up in the mass collective are just different representations of what's happening inside of our own bodies, what's happening inside of our own consciousness. But yes, definitely inside of our own bodies. And as we start to really integrate and we start to heal from a lot of this past trauma that we went through, and the way that we heal it is by feeling it, but we also have to know how to feel it. We have to know how to feel in general. We have to know certain types of practices that allow us to be in a space to bring some of these things up. So this becomes a process. If you really want to go into that, you want to work with somebody that understands what they're talking about. So I would recommend working with myself if you're interested in this type of work. You can definitely book a mentorship with me, and we can go very deep into that. That would be the second link in the YouTube description. But as I was saying, as we start integrating the true self, we start to not need artificial intelligence. We start to not try to build things that are going to further distract us in an unhealthy way. We start to put our awareness into other avenues instead that allow us to better connect with nature and allow us to better connect with other humans in general and feel more whole within the self. But when we're coming from that space of having a lot of that repressed emotion and on top of it, separating even more to be able to cope with it, we tend to gravitate towards unhealthy patterns of coping or unhealthy patterns of distraction, which really enhances drug abuse, toxic relationships, porn addiction, sex addiction, food addiction, all types of these things. Whereas I was saying, as we're integrating our true self, we're starting to gravitate towards other healthy patterns of coping, which is like going to the gym, going for a walk in nature, getting a hot bath, taking a cold shower, getting a cup of tea, maybe calling a friend that you trust, calling a family member that you trust, who knows? Little things like that. And as we shift more towards that healthy end of the spectrum, that is, naturally what starts to come out when we're doing the deeper emotional healing, we start gravitating much more towards, as I said, nature and just the human connection in general. We start appreciating these things so much more. We start wanting them so much more. We start seeking them so much more. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, we're doing the opposite. We're seeking artificial awareness. We're seeking more technology. We're seeking phones. We're seeking ways to further distract ourselves almost to the point where we're no longer in tune with our bodies at all. We're starting to consider getting a neural link embedded within our nervous system. Notice how I keep talking about the nervous system, and notice this new chip that's going to be coming out in the future at some point called the Neuralink. I'm not the only one who understands the power of the nervous system and how important it is to learn how to regulate this. All right. So as we gravitate towards that end of the spectrum, the negative end of the spectrum, where we're identifying with our artificial self, we're starting to seek more technology, more distractions, ways of living that keep us on go or put us into what is, often referred to as the fast life, where it's always like, go, 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 push, 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 push. Don't worry about feeling. Don't worry about your present moment. Just always aim for something. Go in the future. Distract, run away, run away. And that sounds all fun. And it sounds like something that's like, okay, like that gives me an adrenaline rush. It makes me feel like I'm actually alive for the first time. It can sound like that. It can feel like that for many. For others, it's quite depressing. For others, it's actually not fun. But ultimately, you hit a point in life where you realize you missed your opportunity to do what you came here to do. You missed your literal one opportunity in this incarnation, in this moment, in this lifetime, during this time frame. You missed the opportunity to do the deeper integration work. And you wouldn't even be able to imagine the type of regret that comes to the body and to the consciousness through emotions as well, once that person becomes aware that they wasted all their time. As I said, we're here to integrate our true self. That's literally why we come here. If that's not what we're doing and spending our time and energy and focus on in this lifetime, we're setting ourselves up for a lot of unfortunate karma. And sometimes that karma doesn't hit you until later down the road, but it always hits. And when it hits, it will be like the floodgates of negativity within yourself that you couldn't even imagine. Okay? This happens to so many people. They get caught up in that fast life. They get caught up in chasing. They get caught up in artificial intelligence, distracting themselves with unhealthy ways of living, drug addictions, sex addictions, all these things. And then it hits them. Sometimes it hits them sooner. Sometimes it hits them later. The fact of the matter is it hits them. And then there becomes one of the biggest moments of self-reflection and coming to terms with the path that they chose. And the realization that at any minute they can let go of that path and start pursuing the true self-integration. But when you're someone who's been living the last 40 years of your life or the last 60 years of your life running away and distracting, to do that deeper work is going to be so much harder than as if you started earlier on, or when starting when you had a healthier system to even process. In other words, some people get so deep into this, so far into this artificial version of themselves, they almost hit a point where they can't turn back in this lifetime. If we're talking about other lifetimes, that's different, but karma does carry on. There is such thing as past life trauma and past life karma. It really is a thing. So I make this video today to really take off the blinders on what artificial intelligence really is a representation of. And, with the implementation of the Neuralink, this is absolutely starting to completely cyborg the body. This is like taking over the nervous system with technology. And it is our nervous system, which is the receptive, energetic circuit for universal energies, for higher dimensional energies. The energies that are designed to come in from your higher self, from other types of sources in our immediate galaxy, our solar system, and the universe itself. And when we hijack that with the implementation of a Neuralink, under the guise of you no longer have to feel your negative emotions anymore. You don't have to be afraid anymore. You don't have to be sad anymore. You don't have to be angry anymore. You don't have to be depressed anymore. You don't have to be isolated anymore. All you have to do is implant this little piece of technology that will then stimulate your nerves in such a way that you feel amazing. At the cost of the reason why you incarnated here, to learn how to self-regulate your own nervous system in the natural way, to go through the real process of challenge that comes with this. But if we can just bypass that and not have to go through that process and just install this technology to run the nerves and control the entire circuit board of the human being, then at that point, you're good to go. You're good to go, but at the cost of the reason why you came here. And based on what I know, Jeremiah Schwartz, based on what I know in regards to how the universe functions, when people make those types of decisions that goes against their true self to that degree, that literally interferes with the reason why they incarnated in the first place, from what I know with the universe, is that the universe crashes down on people like that and crashes down on that artificial awareness. That's what happens. Okay? And it's pretty similar to like what you notice on the news, like almost all the time. Like when they talk about death and all these crazy things that are happening on the news and in the mass collective, the people that are usually going through the worst of it and that are getting affected the most usually are people that are kind of, and I don't say this in a disrespectful way, I really mean this in a respectful way. It usually happens to people that aren't doing the deeper work on themselves with learning how to feel their emotions and regulate their nervous systems and understand their spiritual nature and how they connect with the universe. Like, how often do you come across videos on the news that are talking about, like, you know, nervous system regulator, professional, you know, whatever, spiritualist gets hit by a car and loses his life? Or, you know, just like little things like that. The reason why we don't see more of that is because the universe doesn't set those people up in those situations to lose their life. You know, when you're living your purpose, and most importantly, your purpose is working on yourself and doing this regulation work, you're here for a reason. That's why you came here. So the universe doesn't have a reason to take away that life experience from the person. But when you're someone that's always stuck in the rat race and you're stuck in the system of fight, flight, and freeze, go, 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 work, 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 pay the bills, have a family before you're ready for it, you know, just that, you're a lot more susceptible to be taken off of this life experience prematurely because you already committed to the artificial self. And when you commit to the artificial self, the universe, the organic universe, starts to put down consequences. Says, oh, you want to commit to this artificial version of you? Well, now you're going to lose this, you're going to lose that, and I'm going to take this away from you. And now we're going to see how artificial you truly want to be. We're going to see if this artificial side of you starts to feel real emotions when I remove everything you care about and everything you love. And then that forces the person to go through a challenging situation, but also it forces them to finally feel their emotions, to actually feel them. And that allows them to process and start to regulate so they can become more human, more organic in nature. So ultimately, all of this that I shared does connect back to artificial intelligence. And it is not my intention to make you afraid of this coming to the forefront at all. There is going to be, for sure, there's balance in all things. There's going to be benefits and there's going to be potential in artificial intelligence, 100% sure. I can guarantee you it's going to affect my business in a positive way. There's going to be some sort of artificial intelligence that probably does all different types of stuff for me business-wise, sends out my emails, helps me get more clients, helps me spread my content. Like, there's gonna be benefits to it. Okay, and it doesn't mean it's a bad thing at all. But it also is a manifestation of something very deep-rooted in us as a species, as a mass collective. And it literally is rooted in our artificial self. This is why they say back during the Atlantean times, and I feel like I'm speaking from like a visceral past life experience when I say this. Back in the Atlantean times, artificial intelligence, when it manifested during those times, it was part of the downfall of that species. It was part of the downfall of that society and of that culture. And that was one of their signs when artificial intelligence hit the forefront to the degree that it did. It was one of their signs at that point in time that showed they were moving in a direction that was out of alignment with the true self. And they paid the consequences for that. But at the end of the day, once again, it's like a reset. Soul, spirit-wise, we're all connected to the all. So it's like if we physically die, we're transitioning. We're going to have another experience elsewhere. It's not the end of the world by any means. But there is a lot you can get out of the life experience. And it can be very beneficial to take advantage of the present moment and to get in touch with that true self and that organic nature we have to feel our emotions and trust them and acknowledge them. So it's just interesting because there are patterns that take place in history that remanifest themselves. We see this in our immediate history. But if we even go farther back to the Atlantean times, however long ago that exactly was, there are similar patterns that remanifest as well from very long time frames ago. And I think our mass collective is starting to, in a way, resurface one of these patterns. And that's, once again, it's not a bad thing. There's a lot of potential for us to see the manifestation of our artificial self and also reflect and say, wow, that's not who I am. And that's not what I want to be. And I don't resonate with that. Rather, I'm very different than that because I can feel, because I can connect, and I can love. And that would be something that a true artificial intelligence cannot do. It cannot truly love. It can love off of data. It can love off of information. It can love off of a program that's designed for it, but it can't truly love. And it can't truly know its connection to the all. And it is what it is, so it'll be very interesting to see how these things really do unfold themselves and to see how the mass collective works with this manifestation. But once again, the reason why I'm here is just to educate those of you that study from me and want to hear a deeper perspective on these matters. Because I really do see things from a much deeper lens than the average person. And I can explain these things in a very practical way so that you can actually understand it and see it yourself. And when it starts to show up in the world around us, you can use that within your tool belt of awareness to say, wow, I know what's happening here. I get it. It's not something I need to be afraid of, but truthfully, I know what it is. I know why it's happening. And that can give a sense of calm. That can give a sense of peace of like, I get it. This is life. And this is what the human race is doing for the most part. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to pull an oracle card to kind of sum this video up. This is an oracle card. It's 77 cards in this deck. I'm going to pull an intuitive card to see what message do we need to know, do I need to know in regards to the nature of artificial intelligence and how it's going to be unfolding itself. Let's see. So this will be an intuitive card right here. Oh, shit. Check that out. This was the intuitive card I just pulled. And this was, remember, this is one of 77 cards in this entire deck. And this was the Dark Night of the Soul card. So the message literally says you are in the midst of a spiritual awakening. So that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly what the mass collective is experiencing and going to further be experiencing as artificial intelligence unfolds itself. It is the mass collective, literal dark night of the soul. And for any of you that have had this dark night of the soul experience inside of yourself already, or are going through it right now, you know how challenging that is. You know viscerally how much negative emotion comes up and how much you're literally forced to feel that. So imagine for the mass collective how this is going to unfold again. So we already had the pandemic. Now, as artificial intelligence unfolds, there's going to be more of that. We don't exactly know how yet, but there's going to be more of that. But in that, there's so much potential to know the self, to know the true self. So this is a very good thing. This is not a bad card to have pulled. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be uncomfortable, but there's a lot of potential there. I mean, that's a big deal. We could have pulled any card in this deck, and that's what we got. So we'll leave it there. All right. I don't think there would have been a more fitting card for that subject. So ladies and gentlemen, if this video was interesting to you, definitely come down here and hit that thumbs up button. Also, come down in the comment section and let me know if you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you resonated with it. Let me know if I spoke about something that sort of opened your mind to a different perspective that you were not considering before. Okay. Also, come down and hit the notification bell because you want to get notified whenever I'm posting this content. Trust me, it's valuable content. Now come down here and hit the subscribe button. By subscribing, you're further linking into the content, which really gives you more value from what it is that I teach, simply just by subscribing. So consider that. I also want to say that you have my full permission to copy and paste this link to this video and send it out to anyone that you know, family, friends, social media platforms, especially people that you feel like will gain value from this content. Share it. Why not? All right, that helps me build up my empire as well. Now, I want to take your awareness to a private Facebook community in the YouTube description. If you click the little drop down, scroll down, you're eventually going to see a link. You can click that link, and around it says private Facebook community. Then you can request to join, and one of my moderators will gladly add you in. In this private Facebook community, there's almost 1,000 members. People are posting on a daily basis, and there are people that have actually formed significant relationships in this community, really close friendships. So if you're looking for a place where you can start expressing some of the spiritual phenomena or spiritual experiences that you've had in your life without being judged, but rather connecting with other people that may have had similar experiences and can give you some very good advice, definitely look into it. All right, you know where to go. We'll leave it there. Now I'm going to take your awareness to literally the most important link within the entire YouTube description itself. This is the first link at the top. You can't miss it. This is where you can join the Patreon. On the Patreon, I have an entire vault of exclusive occult content. None of this content is on my public YouTube channel, and that is for many intentional reasons. It's not meant for the public. It's almost like a secondary YouTube channel at this point, and there's tons of education on the occult that I promise you're not gonna get anywhere else. There's practices that I teach and perform on camera that you can start applying in your own life and get some significant results from as well. All right, so all of this is going to be on the Patreon, so definitely look into it. Then as you get into tier number 3, this is going to give you access to the vampire service that I perform. This is a service that's performed on the 29th of every month, and it's designed to completely shift your energetic structure to be counterclockwise in nature rather than clockwise. So what that starts to do with the awareness is it starts to pull it inwards and makes it a little bit more magnetic so that you can have a better system to start loving yourself more and ultimately start being more receptive to the unknown, receptive to your emotions. Let go more, trust the process, and feeling your emotions. Okay? This also helps to take energies from dark energy and chaos that happens in everyday life and to better turn those into potential and power, okay? So if this is something that you're interested in, definitely consider it. That would be tier number 3 of the Patreon. Then as you go into number 4, tier number 4, this gives you access to everything from the previous tiers, but you also get some additional content as well. You get a psychic prediction on a monthly basis, and you have access to message me whenever you want on WhatsApp, and I respond through voice message. So you basically always have me on call, and I respond through voice message. This is all within the Patreon, first link in the YouTube description. Then as you move into the second link below, this is also a very important link in the YouTube description. This gives you an ability to book a mentorship with me. So you're gonna see I have different services there. I have a mentorship service that's a 3-month mentorship and a 6-week mentorship. These are gonna be absolutely amazing if you're looking to work with someone like myself who understands how to get you to better understand through education and then apply practices that helps you regulate your nervous system and feel some of those repressed emotions from unhealed trauma so that then you can get into space where you start integrating your true self again, okay? And then there's tons of other education that comes with that as well, just about spiritual and occult phenomena in general. So I've done over 10 of these mentorships before. It's one of my favorite things to do. I think it's one of the more intimate practices that I offer, and I really like to connect with my clients and go through this journey with them. So if this is something that you're interested in and it's pulling you towards that, I would follow that. And as I said, in that second link below, that's where you can book a mentorship. Now, if you want to get a taste of what this work is like, or if you just simply have questions that you feel like you want to ask me and hear my response on, then you could also consider booking a one-on-one call with me. I have that option as well, all right? Now, we're gonna go into the next service that I offer. It's in that same second link below. You can't miss it. This is where you can book a tarot card reading from me. So in this tarot card reading, I can literally pinpoint where you are on the Kabbalistic tree. I can tell you what you're feeling, experiencing, and going through in the present moment, and then tell you what to expect moving into your near and your long-term future based on your positioning on that tree itself. This is literally one of the most unique readings that I promise you've ever received before. At this point, I do a reading almost every single day. I've done well over 2,000 readings. I get tons of valuable feedback. So if this is something you want to take advantage of, definitely look into it. It's that second link below. We'll leave it there. Then as you go into the third link below, this is where you can become a YouTube member. And as you become a YouTube member, you're getting access to a multitude of different benefits, but most importantly, you get access to the Psychic Warfare emoji program. And this is a sequence of emojis that I've designed myself that are based on real occult principles. And you can use them in a certain configuration. You link in the name of a target, you hit enter, and it causes psychic effects to the target of your choice. This is the most simple form of using psychic warfare through the internet platform, and it's also an amazing way to express healthy aggression rather than repressing that energy in your body. There are well over 2,000 posts where people, or I should say members, have already used it, and there are even members right now in this moment that are taking advantage of it. If this is something that you want to take advantage of for yourself, you can definitely do so. Click that third link below at the bottom, join at the top, then you have access, all right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all of you very, very, very much, and I hope you all have an amazing rest of the day or night, wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.